Hey friends! Today I wanted to give you 5 of my best tips for beginner hand lettering. Like if I was a beginner, knowing everything that I know now after years of hand lettering, this is what I think I would do to start. So if you're ready, let's get right into the video. The first thing that I'd do if I were a beginner learning how to hand letter was to not worry about which brush pens are the best. Hand lettering takes so much practice, and regardless of whether you buy the fanciest pen or you're using a Crayola marker for practice, you're likely going to go through a few brush pens as you practice your thick and thin strokes. So to me, even though I'm all for testing out tons of pens, I think that practicing with something inexpensive is just fine at the beginning. I also think that there can be a bit of an illusion that using an expensive brush pen can make hand lettering easy. And while I definitely do think that there are some benefits to fancy brush pens and smooth paper, I think practice is so important. I think if I had to choose right now to use an expensive brush pen on rough paper or smooth paper and a Crayola marker, I'd choose the smooth paper and a Crayola marker. So if I was going to spend money somewhere, it would be on smooth paper. The second thing that I think I would do if I was a beginner was work on letter formation before worrying about brush lettering or thick and thin strokes. Now, this can be done at the same time. I'm for sure not saying that it can't, but I think that it can make brush lettering a little bit less stressful if you already have your letter formation down. I would choose a really simple style, something that's even and has good spacing and doesn't have a ton of extra loops and curves and flourishes. For me, this style is really modern and minimalistic because that's what I like, but you may like something different. My own personal style that I letter with is actually shown in this worksheet set called the Eloise. I hand draw my lettering worksheets, so this actually is my hand lettering. And even though I'm not a beginner anymore, I still think that this is one of my favorite places to go to master or practice letter formation, and in my opinion, this style is just classic and timeless. The worksheet sets that I create are digital downloads, so I will leave a link in the description box below and a discount code for you if you want to grab these for yourself. I also have something similar to this but with faux calligraphy called the Olivia. I think that both are really great beginner sets or just a place to practice consistency in your letter formation. So once I mastered the lettering formation of a lettering style that I love, then I would move on to learning brush lettering. And if I were a beginner, I think I would do this by practicing drills. I would practice and practice and practice, and then I would practice and practice and practice, and then I would keep practicing until creating thick and thin strokes felt like second nature to me. If you're not sure what I mean, let me give you a super quick mini brush lettering tutorial. In brush lettering, when you pull the pen down towards yourself on the paper, you're going to press harder to create a thicker stroke. And when your stroke starts to go back up or away from yourself, you ease up on the pressure to create a thinner stroke. This technique applies to letters, but it can feel tricky when your letters seem to have so many different strokes to them. To practice without the frustration of lettering, you can break apart these strokes into individual ones to practice them one at a time. For example, an A is comprised of 2 different strokes, an oval and an underturn. If you practice one at a time and feel really comfortable with creating those individual strokes, it can feel much easier to put them together to create your letters. If you have not already started practicing these strokes using a brush pen, I have some free drills worksheets that you receive in my free 7-day hand lettering mini course. I will link that below as well, but you can just find that at howtohandletter.com/mini course. I think that tracing worksheets can be really helpful because it takes some of the guesswork out of what types of strokes you're creating, and you can focus a little bit more on your pressure and the technique behind using your brush pen. So while I personally love tracing, you can also do this freehand, but I would practice these drills over and over until you can see the thick and thin strokes coming to life without a whole lot of effort. And what I mean by that is that it just feels pretty natural for you to create a stroke like this, or this, or this. And you can do it with a bit more ease than when you first started. And if I was a beginner, this is about the time when I would move on to combining my handwriting style that we talked about earlier with my new brush lettering skills. Combining these two things that now kind of feel like second nature to me creates this type of beautiful brush lettering. This brush style of hand lettering that I'm creating here is similar to what's shown in my Simplified Lettering Beginner Bundle. So again, I'll link that below for those of you wondering. But essentially what we're doing here is taking that beginner lettering style and then just adding thick strokes to our downstrokes. So instead of creating an alphabet that looks like this, which is my monoline alphabet, we use a brush pen and create the same or very similar strokes, but add weight to our downstrokes. This gives a completely different look, as you can see in this example. And the fifth thing that I would do if I was a beginner learning how to hand letter is to find some lettering friends. Lettering can be both frustrating and rewarding, and I find it's more fun with friends. It's also super nice to have a place to go to ask for opinions or advice, and not to mention to see other people's lettering for inspiration and motivation. If you know of a friend who is into lettering, or maybe even one who may enjoy it, you probably already know that this can be really fun and maybe even helpful. I personally don't have a ton of lettering friends in real life, but I do enjoy seeing the work of those that I do have. But I also use places like Instagram, and even recently I started using TikTok to see lettering from other people and also share my own that will hopefully inspire others. I also have a lettering community called Letter Together. If you're curious about that, I will leave it below, but essentially it is a membership where members get 2 sets of printable lettering worksheets every month, and they also receive access to our private Facebook group to ask questions or share their lettering. And I also post exclusive lettering videos over there answering lettering questions or sharing tips. This is not what this video is about, but it's somewhat new and I thought I'd mention it because outside of launching it, I don't think that I've talked about it much here on YouTube. I will not go on about that, but if you are interested, I'll link it below, or you can find it at bit.ly/joinlettertogether. And I know that I said that this was going to be 5 tips, but I also wanted to just leave a little bit of encouragement that lettering is hard for most people. Even at the beginning of my journey, my lettering looked much different. I mean, to be honest, it was pretty terrible, and even after a ton of practice, it still looked so different than how I letter today. This might be kind of a tangent, but if you're curious, you can go back to my beginning videos here on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for over 3 years, but when I started YouTube, I wasn't really a brand new beginner. So even over the last 3 years, my style has changed so much. And I just wanted to encourage you that whether you are literally grabbing a brush pen for the first time today, or you've been doing this for years, it's okay if it still feels difficult and if you're having a hard time. You are definitely not alone. But I do think that a ton of practice and a bit of technique over time can make a huge difference. And one last thing that I wanted to mention is to go slow. This is not technically one of my 5 tips, but learning to letter slowly was a big game changer for me. And if you haven't seen how slow I letter, you can check out my Monday videos where I post real-time letter with me videos. Oftentimes in process videos, lettering is sped up, and trying to keep up with that pace can be really difficult for anyone, especially a beginner. So that is why I started creating these practice with me videos, so that you can practice right along with me in real time. To see some more examples of this from other people, you can also go to Instagram and search the hashtag real-time lettering, and you will see some examples from other people to get a feel for how slowly many other people letter. And hopefully this will help you to find a good pace for yourself. Now, I hope these tips were helpful for you, and let me know if you want a part 2 of what I do next after this. Lettering is such a journey, one that I have been on for many years, and there is so much to finding your own style and creating unique lettering that fits you perfectly. I'll leave some completely free resources in the description box of this video if you'd like to learn more about how to hand letter. A favorite around here is my free 7-day mini course, and I'll also link some playlists that may help you with other tips and tricks when it comes to hand lettering. Again, I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.